Hi, and welcome to Pittman's Pumpkin Patch, Pittman's Garden Patch. It is February the 8th, 2014, and I wanted to talk to you and show you what I've been doing over the past, say, week or so. I've been doing some modifications and getting my seeds ready. As you can see there on the thermometer, it is the top number up there is 38 degrees outside. And in here, under my grow light, it is 79 degrees right now. The temperature's actually dropped from 86 down to 79 since I've opened it up a little bit. And I'm going to show you what I did. This garage is very cold outside of the grow light area, of course. I'm going to show you what I did to trap all of this light and heat in here. It's a pretty cool thing. I wish I would have remembered it, because I had the materials lying around my garage for quite some time, and I just forgot all about it. And but anyways, let me show you what's going on, or should I say growing on. Here I have my seeds that I started in this tray right here. This is 18 cells, and I have down here, this is, I think I'm pronouncing it correctly, Malakia spinach. And these two first rows right here that go that way. So there's 6 of them. And those also is called Egyptian spinach. And I believe, according to John Kohler, he was talking about how, kale is one of the highest nutritional leafy green plants out there. And he said this Egyptian spinach is even more nutrition, has more nutrition in it than the kale does. So I figured, well, I want to try to grow some of that, and get all that nutrition. So here I am starting it. It goes by different names, but Malakia is one of them. Sounds Hawaiian, but its other name for it is Egyptian spinach. And I also have growing on here some nasturtiums day and night mix, which is I think it's gonna be a cool variety because it has ivory flowers and mahogany flowers mixed together. So that should be a cool little addition to the yard. And at the very end down there, the last 2 rows is calendulum, and that's kind of sometimes called pot marigold. And you can see some of the sprouts have already started growing down there. And let's see if I can zoom in on that a little bit. Okay, you can see some of the calendulum down there and right there. They popped through today, and down there at the very end. And I also want to show you that, yes, I do have some of the Egyptian spinach that's popped up. I don't know if it's going to show up here, but let's see if I can get it to the right of my fingertip is one of the little shoots or sprouts popping through. And there's another one. Oh, where did he go? See, oh, here he is, right down here, right next to my fingertip again to the right. Hopefully that's showing up. And so you can get on the ground level and see it kind of popping up. And there he is popping up right there. So that's starting to sprout up. And this has only been in here, maybe 5 days. Between 5 to 7 days, I think, at the most. And so that's going pretty good. So I'm happy for that. Let me show you what else I got going on. In these 5 bigger size pots right here, I put in some Better Boy tomatoes. My dad has always grown those, and he's always had success with Better Boy, disease-wise, and just also the yields has been extremely productive and huge, great tasting tomatoes. And I was just fine, like, Dad, you got it. Which one are you growing? And so I was gonna buy some the starts, but I wanted to see what I could get out of this from seeds. And if you'll notice, right in that pot right there, You already see one tomato that has sprouted. Now, I wasn't expecting that because these have only been in here for maybe 3 days, and that one's already popped up. I didn't really plant one there. At least I didn't think I did. What I did was I put kind of a big old crater there in the center, and I put the seeds down there. And I did that in all the plants. And the reason why is because when these things pop up, when they sprout through, as they get bigger and bigger and start putting on some true leaves, I'm going to bury the stem a little bit more. So I'm starting it down lower into the pot, so as it gets taller and taller, I can bury the stem because, as we all know, or most of us, tomato plants will, along the stem, if you bury it, it will shoot out more roots. And so it'll, take in more nutrition and everything, nutrients from the soil, and be a healthier, stronger plant. So, and I think also when you go to transplant out in the garden in a few months, you can bury it a little bit deeper and everything as well, and that way, when the seasons, it may be a little drought out there or whatnot, you got a longer root system that can get water from not only the surface but halfway down your raised bed or even further down towards the bottom. So you got plenty of root systems to rely on. So that should help get through drought seasons, drought situations. Over here, let me stand up here because my legs are getting a little numb here falling asleep. It's going to be real hard to see. And I barely was able to pick them out. I don't think you're going to be able to see them on here with this kind of camera. But these are my bell pepper plants that I got growing in on this tray right here. All right, this is another 18 cells. And I have all different kinds of varieties that I'm growing. And let me start off with down here on the very end. I have let's see. I have some. These are 3 plants, 1, 2, 3, of Bianca sweet bell peppers, and what's cool about this? They grow white instead of green, and they'll be like an ivory color, and then they'll turn to a scarlet red when they're ripe. So I was like, I want to try to grow that. It's kind of nice to have different colors out in your garden. And so seeing a white bell pepper growing on the plant, instead of the traditional green, I thought it would be kind of cool. The next batch right there is Sweet Sunrise, and it's kind of a yellowy orange bell pepper. It's supposed to be very sweet, very kind of fruity flavor to it when it's ripe. So I think that grows from green to the yellowy orange. And next to that, the next 3 is Chocolate Beauty. I wish they taste like chocolate, but the color is of course brown, and then so that's going to be good. The next one is Purple Beauty. So that's going to be a purplish, reddish when it's ripe. And down here, this next batch right here, going that way, that is some Hungarian tomato pepper. Now, the reason why they call it tomato pepper is because of the coloring and the shape and look of it. It kind of looks like a tomato, but it's actually a Hungarian sweet bell pepper. And a student of mine, I teach first grade in my area, and a student of mine gave them to me and said this was from her grandpa. And so I was like, well, I was very excited about it. So I definitely make sure I'm going to plant it just to see what I get and how it tastes and everything. And down here on the very last, I had some California Wonder bell peppers. And like I said, it's going to be real hard to see, but I did notice this evening that there were some just barely popping through, not even sticking up yet, but I could see maybe three or four of them. I could see just a little sliver of green just starting to crack the surface. So I figure within the next day or two, the ones that I've seen will, should push through pretty good. So, and bell peppers take a long time to germinate. They're usually 14 to 21 days. And so I started these bell peppers first. So these have probably been in here at least about a week, seven days or so. Um, so that's what's going on with that. So I'm getting ready for the season and everything. I'll do all my transplants later and everything. And then here's my California Wonder bell pepper plant over there, not doing too good. And I had to move things out because I was, making room in here. And there's the other California bell pepper plant. And let me show you under here what I did. You can see all the little shelf brackets back there. And these are little pieces of 2x4 that I just kind of bolted into the wall, screwed into the wall or whatever. And I put my seed trays. Now what I did was when I had all my other plants out here, the tomato plants, everything that you've seen in my previous videos, I put my thermometer, out there at a certain height, and I got the temperature of that. And so I knew, okay, at this particular height, the temperature was going to roughly be about this, 75 to, 85 degrees, somewhere in that range. And I thought, well, that's good for germination, so I marked it, and that's where I started pretty much building these little shelves out here made out of 2x4s pieces to put my trays on. So I knew at this height, the temperature would be good for germination. Now, I have a VHO grow light. It's an 8-bulb T5 system, very bright, very puts out a lot of light, a lot of heat. And so the only thing I'm not sure about, or a little concerned or worried about in kind of testing, is at this height where these plants are coming out, will there be enough light so that my plant starts don't get too leggy and then fall over and pretty much die and be useless. So that's what I'm testing here also. I know I have the right temperatures at the plant height of these plants. I just don't know if the light's going to be strong enough. It should be, because I mean, if I were to put this camera up there, it would be total whiteout. It is extremely, extremely bright. And so, well, back to these little bell pepper plants real quick though. And these have kind of taken a beating. These were doing well before, I cut them off at certain points so that they could, I pruned them actually, and then they were starting to grow again at the little nodes, and they were starting to do fine. Then I pruned them a second time, and that kind of was maybe too much for them. And then my son, my 2-year-old son, a few weeks back, he got a hold of the plants, and he ripped a lot of the leaves off of them, and they've just taken too much of a beating. But they're still hanging in. I just don't think they're going to produce anything. But that's an experiment with that. And he kind of did the same. So, anyways, now out here you can see these tomatoes. Look at this. Look at that. These are those beefsteak tomatoes plants that I had in this grow light pretty much all fall and winter long. And then you can see this one's here is getting pretty ripe. Good sized tomato right there. This one is slowly getting that little different green sheen on it at the top of the tomato. And then I have one more right here. It's a little bit smaller than the other ones, but not bad. And when these 3 are done, that's it for these plants. I'm done. And you can see some of the flowers right there, but this is it. I don't have any more room for this stuff in here because of my plant starts. So, I might pick 1 or 2 of them and let it ripen on it in the house. So we'll see. The other thing I wanted to show you. Let me see if I can step back because it might be a little too bright. Let me get inside here. Okay, I'm inside the grow light room, and look, as you can see, I have a very shiny material in here. Okay, and I wish I would have done this earlier on because I could have gotten a much better production out of my tomato plants and much better production out of my bell peppers. I wouldn't have brought them into the house where my son got a hold of them had I done this sooner. And I had this material here the whole time, and I just never thought of it, and what this is a mylar blanket. It's one of those survival safety blankets that if you were out in the wilderness or whatever, hunting or whatnot, You could wrap this around your body, and it traps about 90% of your body heat, and it keeps it in there with you. And it also, um, traps a lot of light too. So, or reflects a lot of light, I should say. So I put this up, taped it up to the top of the grow light, and even though I didn't have it completely sealed, the bottom was there was air on the bottom was allowed to come up in through there, and you can see on the side where it's still opened up there. That was enough to raise the temperature in here from it went one day it was 46 degrees in the garage without this, and then with 2 or 3 hours of this grow light being on and this mylar blanket being up, the temperature went up to about 80, what was it, 86 degrees, I believe, in about 2 to 3 hours. From 46 to about 86, 40-degree temperature rise. And so, as the temperatures outside start to get a little bit warmer, I got to make adjustments in here because when it's about 51 degrees outside, roughly 48 to 51 degrees outside, excuse me, I've noticed that the temperatures in here with the mylar blanket and everything was like 92 degrees. So like I said, this grow light puts off a lot of light and a lot of heat. And if you're not careful, you'll cook your plants. So that's why I had these plants down at this level, and I'll have to, open up the mylar blanket some more as the temperature starts to warm so that it doesn't get too hot in here. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else need to be said. I water my plants on the bottom. I fill the water in the tray, and I let the soil mix absorb the water from the bottom up. That way, I'm not watering from the top where you could spread some disease, knock the soil all around, also could knock your seed further down in, and that could cause it not to germinate. So watering from the bottom is the better way to do it. What I use for my soil mix is I went to the big box store and I picked up some Jiffy seed starting mix, and it had a mixture of cocoa coir, peat moss, and I can't remember whatever else it was in there. And you want to pre-moisten it. It says right on the bag about adding some water to it and get it all moistened up, because what that's going to do is it's going to allow, especially the cocoa coir and the peat moss, it's going to allow it to absorb water much easier, and it won't float in the water. If you pre-moisten it. So I highly recommend to do that. Is to pre-moisten your seed starting mix, then put your seeds in and water from the bottom in your trays. So that's what I'm doing here at the Pittman's pumpkin patch, Pittman's garden patch. And it was kind of funny. I still have one cabbage left that's in the refrigerator right now from my garden out back. We had a couple big snowstorms come in. One put about 5 or 6 inches down one week, and then about a week later we got about 10 inches. And in between those snowstorms, I went out there and harvested my last 2 cabbage plants. And they survived being under that 5 or 6 inches of snow for 3 or 4 days. And so that was kind of good to know that, cabbage is a pretty hardy plant. It'll, survive the snow. Now, other cabbage plants, the Chinese cabbage, it didn't make it. The collard greens, they didn't make it. But the cabbage did. So I know now that I could rely on that to stay out there in the wintertime, and I don't have to worry about, it succumbing to, any damage. I mean, there was a slight little browning of the leaves on just like in the center, but you just cut that small little part out, and it was just as tender and tasty as could be. So I'm going to go ahead and get off of here and put the mylar blanket, wrap it back around, and because right now it's pretty much, as you can see, it's opened. And so I'm going to, let me see if I can step back and show you how this grow light, I mean, it's a 4 foot, goes all the way down there, and like I said, it puts out a lot of light and a lot of heat. So anyways, I also added a little bit of this special fertilizer that I'll show you and talk to you about on a later episode that I'm trying out this year. I've heard a lot of good things about it. It was a little hard to find, but I got a hold of some, got it shipped. When these plants get going, they should do pretty good with that granular fertilizer in there. Should be ready for them. So, anyways, from Pittman's Pumpkin Patch, Pittman's Garden Patch, I'll talk at you later, and thanks for watching. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe to my channel. I appreciate it. Thank you.